Usually when we talk about an immune system, whether it's in our bodies or like in a computer network, there's this expectation of recognition. A virus enters, the system identifies the threat, and it attacks the invader.
Right. I mean, it is the fundamental defensive mechanism.
Mhm.
The host survives because the system actually knows the difference between a pathogen and its own white blood cells.
Exactly.
Right.
But then you step into the world of institutional cybersecurity and, well, state justice, and suddenly that immune system is completely inverted.
Yeah.
We're looking at a landscape where the system doesn't attack the virus at all. It just aggressively attacks the white blood cells, trying to sound the alarm.
Yeah, and that brings us to the core of what we're looking at today. In 2014, a Uruguayan cybersecurity expert named Alberto Daniel Hill found exactly that kind of virus inside his country's healthcare system. He sounded the alarm,
Yeah.
and the system just came for him.
It's wild. So welcome, everyone, to this custom-tailored deep dive. Our mission today is to explore this terrifying intersection of technical curiosity, state retaliation, and really the total dehumanization of justice.
Yeah, we have a really fascinating stack of sources to go through. We're looking at a comparative study of the 2014 indie film algorithm and the real-life ordeal of Alberto Hill. We're also pulling from the philosophical writings of Alan J. Friedman.
Which are incredible, by the way.
They really are. And finally, we're diving into a newly published 2026 investigative mapping by August Larkspur titled The Birth, the Genesis, the Machine, and the Flapwings. Together, these documents dissect exactly how institutional incompetence turns into targeted malice.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the central question here is, what happens when a hacker exposes a broken system, and the institution decides that rather than actually fixing the code, it's easier to just crush the whistleblower?
Well, what's fascinating is how reality somehow managed to outdo a Hollywood dystopian thriller. If we look at Jon Schiefer's 2014 film Algorithm, it sets up this theoretical worst-case scenario, right?
Right, where the freelance hacker Will accidentally breaches a government contractor.
Exactly. He breaches this contractor called Emergency and discovers Shepard, which is this massive, terrifying surveillance tracking program. And when the government detects the breach, rather than fixing the vulnerability, they deploy their full weight to crush him and his friends.
But the cinematic version is, like, clean. It's highly technical. It's almost flattering to the government's competence,
Yeah, totally. I mean, the fictional hacker uses a complex Pringles can worm to bypass firewalls. The state operatives are ruthlessly efficient. But when Alberto Hill lived out the real-world equivalent that exact same year, the technical reality was far less glamorous.
To say the least. The state's response was defined by staggering incompetence. The vulnerability Hill found didn't require some high-tech cinematic hacking tool at all.
No, not even close.
He was literally just trying to help his partner book a medical appointment online with a major Uruguayan healthcare provider, the Círculo Católico. And he realized the system was entirely open. We're talking about 200,000 medical records, plus financial data, sitting completely exposed on the open internet.
And the mechanism he used to find this out is, frankly, almost laughably simple. It wasn't a brute force attack or anything. He literally just altered a parameter in the URL.
Right, which, for anyone wondering how that works, it's a basic failure in access control, isn't it?
Exactly. The web application doesn't verify if the user requesting the data is actually authorized to view it. It just blindly serves whatever the URL asks for.
It's less like picking a high-tech biometric lock and more like, imagine staying at a hotel realizing your digital key card says room 101, taking a Sharpie, crossing it out to write room 102, and finding out the elevator just blindly accepts it and takes you to someone else's floor.
That is a perfect analogy, and Hill did what any ethical professional does. He documented the open doors and responsibly disclosed these massive security flaws to Uruguay's National Computer Emergency Response Team, CERTRI. He assumed they would, fix it.
But they didn't. They just left the hotel doors wide open. And then 3 years later, in 2017, an unrelated extortionist targeted that same hospital using those exact flaws, demanding a ransom in Bitcoin.
Right, so the state suddenly finds itself in a massive crisis.
Right.
They need a scapegoat, they look back at their logs, see Hill's responsible disclosure from years prior, and they arrest the only person who had actually tried to help them.
And the investigation itself is where the illusion of state competence completely shatters for me. Because when Interpol and local police raided Hill's apartment, they arrived with a flawed warrant.
Oh, this is a mess.
They had the wrong date, and they didn't even have his name right. It listed an Alvaro instead of Alberto.
And the procedural violations went far beyond clerical errors, too. During the raid, agents seized Hill's powered-off Samsung Galaxy S7 and immediately turned it on.
Which is, wait, that's a huge deal in forensics, right?
It is a direct, egregious violation of basic international digital forensic standards, specifically ISO/IEC 27037.
Because that completely ruins the integrity of the device as evidence. When a smartphone powers on and hits a cell tower or Wi-Fi network, background processes instantly start writing to the disk.
Exactly. Network time protocols update. Caches flush. Volatile memory, the RAM, which might hold decryption keys, gets overwritten.
The device could even receive a remote wipe command from the internet. It's basically the digital equivalent of stomping through a bloody crime scene with muddy boots.
State investigators are trained to place devices in Faraday bags specifically to prevent exactly this. But in Hill's case, the technical illiteracy was just systemic. I mean, they treated a plastic anonymous mask-like bought at a costume shop as definitive proof of a cybercrime conspiracy.
And didn't they find actual plastic coins?
Yes. They found 2 physical plastic souvenir coins in his apartment and officially logged them as actual, literal Bitcoins.
Wait, I have to pause on that. How does a modern investigative unit in 2017 not know the difference between a piece of plastic and a decentralized digital cryptocurrency?
Well, it suggests the system doesn't actually incentivize technical accuracy or truth. It just incentivizes a closed case. The prosecution treated Hill's simple URL modification as this extremely high-level skill because portraying him as a criminal mastermind justified their heavy-handed raid.
While simultaneously missing the real evidence.
Exactly. They completely missed the actual data storage in his apartment. They left 18 large hard drives weighing around 34 kilograms in total, just scattered on his floor. The narrative was clearly more important than the physical reality.
Imagine noticing the door to a bank vault is wide open, telling the bank manager to lock it. And then 3 years later, when the bank actually gets robbed, the police arrest you simply because you're the only one who pointed out the broken lock.
It's absurd, but it brings us to the underlying philosophical framework in our sources, specifically the writings of Alan J. Friedman, who was Hill's late mentor.
Right, Friedman described humanity's transition into what he called the Great Machine. It's this unthinking, rigid, highly automated societal structure.
And the Uruguayan judicial system is a perfect manifestation of the Great Machine. The machine does not process nuance. It requires a process body to justify its existence and to capture public praise. Hill was selected as the technical sacrifice to feed into that mechanism.
And the human cost of being fed into that machine is just horrific.
Yeah.
When Hill went to court, the trial judge explicitly commanded his defense attorney not to contradict her.
The decision was predetermined.
Entirely. Hill was thrown into preventive prison for 8 months, and the official justification was that he was a flight risk who possessed such high-level computer skills that he could supposedly alter the forensic evidence stored at Interpol with his mind.
With his mind, yeah. And the psychological terror of that situation cannot be overstated. While detained, the state denied him his essential ADHD and anxiety medications.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the sheer physiological stress of the withdrawal, combined with the environment of the prison, caused him to physically collapse. He eventually fell into a 3-hour coma in the hospital.
This is what Hill later termed the protocol of silence. When an institution suffers a massive failure, like leaving 200,000 medical records exposed for 3 years, their priority is never to fix the vulnerability or protect the public.
No, never. Their absolute priority is narrative control.
They deploy the protocol of silence to minimize their own exposure by silencing the truth-tellers. So I have to ask you, based on the sources, is the justice system actually broken in these cases? Or is it functioning exactly as the Great Machine is designed to, protecting its own reputation and power at the expense of objective truth?
It forces us to view these institutions differently, doesn't it? The justice system isn't broken here. It is functioning with a cold, mechanistic logic exactly as the Great Machine is designed to operate. It automating the suppression of dissent to maintain the illusion of institutional authority.
Think about what that means for you, the listener. How many times have you blindly trusted an automated security email from your bank or a privacy update from your healthcare provider, assuming there are rational humans working behind the scenes to keep your data safe?
Right, but the reality is often a labyrinth of self-preservation mechanisms that view you as a liability the moment you point out a flaw.
And the sheer crushing weight of that institutional automation is designed to erase an individual's identity. The state tried to completely rewrite Hill's legacy as a respected professional into a caricature of a cyber terrorist.
But Hill refused to be a processed body. Friedman had a counter-metaphor for the Great Machine, which he called the flap wings.
The flap wings. I love this concept.
It's beautiful. It represents the human soul's effort to soar above the mechanistic weight of society, reclaiming your sovereign human expression to shatter the state's narrative.
And Hill definitely did that. He wrote a book documenting every illegal procedure called Log Into Hell. He took his story global on the massive podcast Darknet Diaries. He really flapped his wings.
He did. And that reclamation of expression brings us to the most complex document in our stack, which is the 2026 investigative mapping by August Larkspur.
Which is a pseudonym Hill uses, right?
Yeah. Yes, it's a pseudonym he uses to legacy manage Friedman's work and continue investigating obscure networks. The document was published by Theana Network, and it's titled The Birth, the Genesis, the Machine, and the Flapwings.
What struck me about this document is that it completely discards the idea that Hill's ordeal in Uruguay was just an isolated incident of local incompetence.
Exactly. Instead, it meticulously maps a 14-year timeline from 2010 to 2024, showing a massive, coherent global structure where private intelligence gathering, media manipulation, and legal retaliation are deeply, deeply intertwined.
And the architecture of this map is revealing. Rather than just listing events, Larkspur tracks the evolution of the surveillance industrial complex through different layers, right?
Yeah, so it starts with Layer 0, the flapwings, which focuses on media narrative and funding flows. Then Layer 1, the birth, showing how early hacktivism, specifically operations by Anonymous, accidentally laid bare the blueprints for modern private intelligence firms.
And the map shows how those exposed blueprints were quickly adapted by state and corporate actors in Layer 2, the genesis.
Right. Looking at formalized partnerships between agencies like the Department of Homeland Security, the DOJ, and various private monitoring groups around the 2016 election.
And then Layer 3 breaks down the mechanics and infrastructure, linking to entities like Scotland Yard and Hacker House. And finally, Layer 4 covers the fallout and legal cases.
And we should be explicitly clear with the listener here. The Larkspur document touches on highly charged political events, including mentions of DNC operatives, FBI informants, and election monitoring.
Right, absolutely.
We are not taking a political stance, nor are we endorsing the viewpoints of any factions mentioned in those events. We are just impartially reporting on the structural map provided in the source material, which illustrates how intelligence, media, and private infrastructure overlap regardless of political affiliation.
Good clarification. And here's where it gets really interesting. The focal point of that infrastructure is fascinating. The document uses a figure named Neil Rauhauser as a narrative anchor at the center of the structure.
Yeah, by tracking his alleged involvement across these different eras, the map connects all those entities we mentioned. It paints a picture of a continuous functioning apparatus designed to monitor, suppress, and control information across international borders.
It's the ultimate butterfly effect in information warfare. The flap of a wing in a newsroom or a billionaire's office can become a hurricane in the digital ecosystem years later.
And the mechanisms of suppression observed in Uruguay are really just one localized protocol in a much larger automated global system.
And that automation has only accelerated, hasn't it? We aren't just dealing with metaphorical machines anymore. The philosophical concept Friedman described has literally become AI.
It has. This brings us to the 2026 trust and safety crises at Meta, which serves as the modern culmination of everything we've discussed. Trillion-dollar tech monopolies have essentially replaced skilled human moderation with conversational and predictive AI.
They've automated their corporate governance to maximize profit, completely dehumanizing digital justice in the process. We have to look at the Nicole Eggert case from February 2026 to understand how catastrophic this is.
Yeah, Eggert, who's an actress, had her Facebook account compromised through a targeted SIM swap.
And for those unfamiliar, a SIM swap isn't a hack on your phone. It's a social engineering attack on your telecom provider. The hacker convinces the carrier to port your phone number to a SIM card they control.
And the moment that happens, all your SMS-based two-factor authentication codes aren't going to you anymore. They go straight to the attacker. They bypass the password entirely. From there, the attackers used credential stuffing to breach Eggert's Meta accounts.
They executed a scorched earth maneuver. They stripped her emails from the account, tied a hardware 2FA token to a random Xbox to lock her out permanently, and triggered Meta's 30-day permanent deletion countdown.
And the stakes here were existentially high. This wasn't just a PR problem for a celebrity.
No, not at all. That account contained 15 years of her life, including her cancer diaries. We are talking about 7 years of highly personal oncological treatment logs, mastectomy records, and support group communications.
Eggert's legal team immediately intervened. They compiled comprehensive forensic briefs detailing the jurisdiction, the SIM swap mechanics, and the urgent medical nature of the data. They sent all of this to Meta.
But there were no humans left to read it. When those legal briefs hit Meta's servers, they weren't reviewed by a trust and safety officer. They were processed by automated corporate mail servers driven by AI.
And conversational AI looks for structured, predictable inputs. It doesn't have a protocol for nuanced, multi-page legal panic.
The AI simply categorized the legal intervention as an anomalous format and blindly rejected the emails, throwing back error 550 codes.
The AI acted as a flawless, unthinking machine. It basically said, does not compute, while a victim's most sensitive medical history was ticking toward complete incineration.
But here's what basically broke my brain in the source material. Meta's billion-dollar AI security center didn't catch this intrusion. A woman sitting in Montevideo, Uruguay, did.
Yes.
Alberto Hill's mother happened to notice strange anomalies on Eggert's public feed. She immediately alerted her son. How does a woman in South America spot a highly sophisticated SIM swap in Hollywood before a trillion-dollar algorithm does?
It is what the sources refer to as the thesis of synchronicity, or the MOM protocol. 30 years prior, in 1996, a young Alberto Hill had actually built Nicole Eggert's original fan site on GeoCities.
Wow.
Because of that distant connection, his mother still followed her public updates.
The probability of Alberto Hill, the exact cybersecurity expert who survived his own destruction by the great machine in Uruguay, being the one to spot this and save her data, was calculated at 1 in 4 billion.
It's crazy. Hill immediately used PGP encrypted channels to coordinate directly with Eggert, bypassing the automated corporate filters to halt the deletion.
It is the ultimate triumph of the flapwings. A purely nonlinear, unpredictable human connection bypassed the automated administrative silence.
The algorithm, which was designed to protect the platform's efficiency rather than the user, failed completely. But human synchronicity and community support succeeded.
So what does this all mean for you? We are constantly sold the narrative that AI will protect us, that these massive automated systems are our guardians. But this case proves the exact opposite.
It really does. Blind algorithms routinely reject highly nuanced human security crises, throwing 550 errors at desperate lawyers, while malicious hackers easily exploit that same AI's naive parameters to lock victims out of their own lives.
So, synthesizing everything we've explored today reveals a really chilling trajectory. We've seen how the cinematic fiction of a retaliatory state in algorithm became the devastating reality of Alberto Hill's arrest. We've traced the evolution of the private surveillance complex in August Larkspur's 14-year map. And we've watched Friedman's philosophical great machine evolve from a metaphor for bureaucratic incompetence into literal, unthinking AI that blocks legal briefs just to protect its own server efficiency.
And the essential takeaway for you, the listener, is recognizing the fragility of your digital identity. The systems governing our digital lives, whether they are a technologically illiterate justice system in Uruguay or Meta's unvetted machine learning algorithms, are designed to protect the institution, not the individual.
Exactly.
You cannot rely on the machine to protect you when the machine is programmed exclusively to protect itself. The true functional defense mechanism in our modern landscape is the human support network, the global information security community, the people who actually watch out for each other when the algorithms inevitably turn a blind eye.
It always comes back to the humans in the loop. We started by talking about an immune system that attacks its own defenses. If our judicial and corporate systems are increasingly relying on automated protocol of silence mechanisms to hide their flaws, what happens when the great machine targets your digital footprint by mistake? In a world where an algorithm serves as the judge, jury, and executioner of your digital life, who will be left to flap their wings for you?